Welcome to Motivation and Delegation. Today is sponsored by the Central Valley Regional HR Hotline. My name is Anna Manzano. I'm the digital media and event strategist here at the California Employers Association. Before we get into today's webinar, a couple of details to cover with you. So as you see, your audio is muted for today's presentation, but there will be lots of opportunities to engage during today's session, and we really do encourage you to do so. If you have any questions about the training content, or want to make a comment or definitely engage with Keisha, you can just enter those into the chat box at any time, and we will address them as we go. If you have any technical issues, you can also put that into the chat box to everyone, or just send it to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Handouts for this training, those were sent out in yesterday's reminder email. However, what I'm going to do is pop that PDF into the chat box in just a minute. When you see it pop up in the chat box, if you still need to download it, you can click it and it'll download directly to your local drive. If you have any issues downloading it or accessing it, please, again, just ping me in the chat, and I'm happy to send that over to you directly. Last but not least, we do have a survey. It is only 5 questions, but the feedback that you share with us in those 5 questions, we really do take to heart here at CEA. We share them with our partners over at the Central Valley Regional HR Hotline, and we collectively make sure that we are meeting and hopefully exceeding your expectations with trainings like this, our HR hotline that we provide, as well as the entire suite of resources available to employers like yourself. So again, there will be a slide. There'll be a QR code for you to scan with your phone, or once you close out of Zoom, there will be a browser window that pops up. Hopefully you opt in and share that, that minute with us to answer those 5 super quick questions. I believe most of them are multiple choice. So that you'll see at the end. So again, today is sponsored by our partners over at Ventura County. You'll be hearing from Keisha in a second with more about that, that hotline and how to utilize their resources. But with that, I'd love to introduce our trainer today. We have Keisha Hansen, who is our amazing Learning and Development Director. And Keisha, you may take it away.
Thank you so much, Anna. Welcome, everybody. You've come to a little bit of a lunch and learn today. High noon, so hopefully you have something delicious to eat, or a nice warm beverage if it's cold where you are. I would tell you it's cold in Southern California, but 65 probably isn't that cold to other people. Anyways, motivation and delegation is the topic that we're talking about, and we're happy to sponsor and partner with a Central Valley, all of these different counties that are represented that we work with, and at no cost to you. The service that they provide, the hotline for all of the counties listed here, is free for you to give one of our subject matter experts, and they really are subject matter experts on compliance. You can call us 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Here are just some of the issues that you might call, you might have questions about, and we will do our absolute best to help you and guide you to get a solution for that. So amazing service that is, again, provided at no cost to you. So hopefully you have taken advantage of it prior, or if not, you might give it a try in the future. If you are joining us for the very first time, California Employers Association, we are a human resource association. We've been in business for over 80 years, a long time. And we work with employers throughout the state of California, members and non-members. Our goal is really to provide peace of mind, with compliance solutions, training such as this. We also do on-site trainings. We can come to your place of business and do a training. We also do executive coaching and some additional services. So if any of those pique your interest, you can give us a call. And remember, because you have that hotline, you have a specific number dedicated just for the county that you are in. So make sure to refer to that in your handout when you give us a call. I want to give our lawyers peace of mind today by letting you know I'm not a lawyer, and we're not getting too deep into any compliance today, so that should be good. But if you are in search of an attorney, we do work with several attorneys throughout the state. So again, you could use that 800 number to give us a call, and hopefully we could partner with you with someone in your area. So as we think about motivation in the workplace, we're going to focus on a few influential factors. This could be an all-day training, right? As we think about it and how complex it can be. But we're going to focus in on really, number one, our managers and the impact that they have on motivation and employee engagement. So we'll do that by really talking about some shifting leadership styles of today, what can really make an impact in terms of motivation and engagement, what maybe is making less of an impact. And it's really important in today's workforce because we are shifting in terms of generations. Some of our more senior generations are able to retire from leadership and management positions, and some of our younger generations are coming in to fill in management positions. And we want to make sure that they have all the tools that they need in order to be successful managers. Another huge impact that you need to know as an employer is, what do employees want today? Because there is so much change in our workforce, and we're still in an evolution of our workforce. What do our employees want? What are they looking for? Important to know, again, when you're trying to motivate and inspire employees. We'll also talk about creating a coaching culture, another part of management, and also delegation. One of the most underutilized skills and tools that managers have, but they don't use. We'll talk a little bit about why they might not. So as we think about motivation, let's think about what you're already doing well. And I'm going to put up this poll that you're seeing on your screen, should come on your screen right now, and you can choose more than one. But what are some ways you're currently motivating employees at work? And really think about what's working for you. Which ones of these are really working for you, that you've really put some thought into, and you're really going above and beyond to make sure that these are implemented. Gosh, we got answers right away. This is exciting. So believe it or not, setting clear goals and expectations seems kind of common sense in the workplace. But by far, there are a lot of employees who will leave a business or company because they didn't have clear expectations of what their job duties were, of what their responsibilities were, or maybe what was talked about during the interview process doesn't align with what reality is. Once they get to the workplace, it's changing quite frequently. And that can impact motivation and whether a person stays or not. It can also impact retention. Okay, I think everybody is done. So let me, okay, one more, I think. So let's talk about the results here. Okay, really tied across the line. So these are great. 67% in the first four categories. So you guys are doing something right, because these are things that employees actually want. These are things that actually do motivate employees. So setting clear goals and expectations, really knowing what the job duties are can really inspire someone, motivate them to do the job. Recognition of achievements. Gallup does a survey, and engaged employees, according to Gallup, need to be recognized at least once every 7 days. So it's really an important part of motivation for an engagement for employees. Ensuring a positive and supportive work culture, 67%, so important. We do better work when we're happy at work, right? When we're in a positive work environment where we feel supported, where we feel engaged, where we feel inspired by our coworkers and colleagues. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And you can share too in the chat box things that are working specifically. Flexibility, again, think of a few years ago during the pandemic, and some people were forced to have kind of a pause or a different kind of work environment, which gave them more flexibility, working remotely, working hybrid, maybe even having a paused furlough and not working at all. And they realized, gosh, I have a lot going on outside of work too. As a result, employees want some sort of flexibility to be able to have that work-life balance. And I know there's so many employers represented who have the type of business or company where people need to be on site, right? We're a manufacturing company. People can't do the manufacturing at home. I get it. But what kind of flexibility? Is there something that you can offer? I mean, healthcare has been implementing different kinds of schedules for years and years. So is there some sort of flexibility that shows that you're really invested in your employees? And then providing opportunities for growth and development was 56%, which isn't bad either. So you guys are on the right track. But believe it or not, employees do want to continue to learn and grow and have opportunities for growth in their positions. And again, we talk about some of the influencing factors to motivation, up to 70% of an employee's motivation is influenced by their direct manager. And the role of management has really changed over the years. And when you think of traditionally what the role of a manager was, it really was more task based. It was more, meeting deadlines, being accountable for getting things done, making sure you directed your employees' activities so that they were getting things done, correcting poor behavior, being the intermediary between the executives and the employees. All of these things really more task based, and it has evolved over the years to become more of a task focused and people focused role. So not only making sure our employees meet the deadlines and do the work, but also building the relationships, because building trust is such a big part of having an effective team, a collaborative team, seeing potential in people, right? When you have employees looking out for their strengths, what do they do really well? Many of us, including myself, when we start work in the workplace, we might start a job not really being familiar with the industry and what it entails. And then we might get more interested in certain positions, different departments. So really looking out for people as a coach to see how do they want to build their career. And then we also, as managers, have the role of driving change. And there's been a lot of change over the last several years. Really making sure that it happens. How do we buy the motivation and commitment, get the buy-in from our employers when change happens, which isn't always our choice, right? Sometimes it is coming down from the top, and we have to implement it. Then how do we help employees get on board? And then we're also responsible as managers for inspiring and motivating others. So it's carrying the heavy load. It's a lot taller of an order than it used to be. I believe. I've always believed you're carrying a heavy load being a manager, but it has a different context to it these days. So we want to make sure that our managers have the tools they need in this ever-changing work environment. So it really is about balancing the two, because when we're promoted from being an employee doing a great job in a certain position to becoming a manager, we still have this similar duties and responsibilities, but now added to that, all those that we've already mentioned. So we want to be able to focus on tasks, but we also want to be able to focus on our people. And this is something that employees have reported again and again in multiple surveys that have been done in the last few years about what they're looking for in the workforce. If you can think of a job where you had a manager who was just focused on the tasks, just getting things done, just, what is the end result going to be? What are the end outcomes going to be? And not really paying attention to the employees, that can tend to affect employee morale and motivation. So let's take a look at a couple of different leadership styles and talk about some pros and cons to those in terms of motivating employees. So the first one is a laissez-faire leader, which really is a French phrase, but it's really referring to a leader who is more hands-off. And there can be pros to that, and there can be cons. But as you see from the bullet points, overall, if you go to the extreme of being a hands-off leader, you can be perceived as being very aloof and distant from your employees, not really invested in developing or coaching your employees' efforts, or directing or guiding their career path. Employees are usually left to their own devices and usually working without critical input. And overall, just a perception that there's low involvement or participation with the team in general. Now, can you think of, I'm going to just get some participation here. Can you think of some pros to being a more hands-off leader? When would this come in handy? When would this be a benefit to a team or members of the team at least? Because we're all individuals, so we might want to be managed a little bit differently. When might it be a benefit to be hands-off? Laissez-faire. That's about the only French I know. Used to know more. Um, you get a better flow of employee ideas. So putting some autonomy on the employees. Absolutely, Barbara, not coming up with all of the ideas um, yourself, encouraging critical thinking and problem solving. Yeah, absolutely. At times you want to be able to, you want to be the coach, you want to develop people, but at some point you want to let go and give them some autonomy to think of some ideas and resolve problems on their own, right? Another area where it would be really beneficial is if you have really highly skilled employees, right? Or they're really seasoned, they've been in their role for a number of years, they can do their job with their eyes closed, basically. So, in that respect, they don't need a lot of micromanaging. Well, nobody needs micromanaging, but they might not need as much guidance as somebody who is newer to the position, newer to the company. So they can agree to check in with you when they need you, right? But other than that, you're pretty much hands off unless you're engaged in some new project or new task. But they're pretty much self-sufficient. Is employees who usually like hands-off leaders. But again, when we go to the extreme, those high-performing, self-sufficient employees still need support, right? Because things can go awry in a moment's notice. So we still want to be there. We still want them to know, our employees know that we're there to check in, to support, and see how they're doing and see how they're progressing. But again, they will let us know when they need it. But we want to be available. We want to be accessible. Excellent. So the next one is authoritarian leaders, and I'm sure we've all seen a few of those in our careers. Authoritarian leaders, again, from the bullets, can be perceived as demanding, expecting kind of our obedience, really giving us instruction, not really collaborating or getting a lot of input or allowing input or discussion around how we do things. They might be perceived as being unconcerned about staff welfare and just, again, really worried and concerned more about the bottom line. Again, may seem aloof or arrogant and can be one-way communicators, right? So if you use this leadership style 100% of the time, 5 days a week, it probably could impact motivation and morale, right? Because we're human beings. We want to be able to collaborate. We want to be able to give our input and opinions on things. And if you think about when we were kids and people were telling us what to do, our parents, our teachers, we didn't always like it. And as adults, we're not any different, right? So we really want to be treated as adults and human beings, and be asked for our input and opinions so that we feel valued and seen and heard. That does not mean that at times we do not take an authoritative stance, because as a manager and leader, we do have to enforce different policies and procedures, safety regulations. Those are really important, that we have to take a stand and say, this is what we're doing. This is what you have to adhere to. These are the regulations. These are the policies. If not, you could get in trouble, right? You could get disciplined, etc. So there are times when we want to be authoritative, but we don't want to take on that leadership 100% of the time, if that makes sense to you. Otherwise, you're definitely going to see a decrease in motivation and morale from your team. Then we have collaborative leaders, and this is where I say our workforce is shifting and transforming, and a lot of companies, slow and steady, I would say. Many companies are adopting a more collaborative leadership style where they're really engaging employees in getting their input, their ideas, their opinions on things, and also understanding that as individuals, members of the team have different motivations. So finding out what does motivate an individual team member, and how does an individual team member really want to work with their peers and also with their managers. Collaborative leaders tend to not micromanage. Some of the mentions in the chat about kind of letting people do their thing. They want people to be able to have autonomy and do their work the best that they can. So they don't really micromanage, but they set them up for success. They set up those expectations. They give them the support and training that they need, especially those newer employees. Collaborative leaders show they care. They really take time to listen to employees, to ask them how they're doing, how their day's going, whether it's in a morning check-in or a weekly staff meeting, really showing that empathy. And for some of us, it's our superpower. We can really put ourselves in the place of our employees and feel what they're going through. Others of us, we have to work on it, but it is something that employees say they really want in a manager. There was one survey done by Forbes that during the Great Resignation that said employees said they would have stayed. 92% of employees said they would have stayed if their manager showed more empathy. So really important quality of collaborative leadership. Collaborative leaders build a strong network, so they know what people's strengths are. They identify that. They have those ongoing conversations, which help build relationships. And that's cross-departmental, right? So when we need people from other departments to work on a project because we know they have the skills or the insight or the strengths, we do that. We want to build a network, not only for our team, but for our organization. Also very transparent and honest as much as they can and encourage taking risks. Most successful companies, we fail before we succeed, or we succeed and we fail, and we learn from those mistakes. So encouraging risk taking so that people can delve into new areas and progress in their careers. So the foundation of those leadership styles, whether it's a combination of all of those, or you're kind of separate and created your own kind of leadership style, what's really important is that you build trust on your team, because building trust creates that accountability with each other and also creates that accountability with the leader, that the leader's going to come through to be supportive, to be there in times when there are issues or challenges. So part of holding yourself accountable as a leader is effective communication, not only overly communicating, but making sure the message is getting across and being understood. Giving trust to get trust. So they say leaders can be a bit vulnerable. Once we show vulnerability as leaders, then that empowers employees to be more vulnerable and share when they are experiencing a hardship or maybe there's a challenge at work. So we want to create that trust so that people open up when there are issues or challenges or problems. Keeping our commitments as leaders. Employees are always looking to leaders to set the tone and set the example. So we want to keep our commitments. We want to be consistent and fair with our employees and be accessible. Again, even if you have that self-sufficient, really high-performing employee, you want them to know that you're available when they are experiencing something or they have some questions about something. And then also just establishing those agreements up front, that letting people know, how you lead and asking them how they want to be led can be really impactful. And again, what do employees want at work these days? And I'm sure just from the results in the poll that you guys have all heard these before, but it doesn't hurt mentioning again. Work-life balance, right? That's where that flexibility comes in. There's a high rate of stress and burnout in the workplace over the last few years, more than it's ever been. So we want to be able to provide that work-life balance, whether it's revisiting our benefit program, whether it's revisiting if we can offer more flexibility, whether it's looking, internally, what do our employees want in terms of work-life balance? Setting up that positive work culture. And it's not only a manager's responsibility or are the only one responsible for creating that work culture. It's the employees you hire that set up the work culture as well. Purpose. So employees want a sense of purpose, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they, have an overriding passion for this job or this position, but it does mean that what they do matters. That maybe what they do is serving the community. Maybe it's serving a certain percentage of the population. Maybe it's just helping the organization be successful in their goals and achieving their goals and mission. But knowing, if I come to work and knowing what I do every day matters, that makes me feel really good. It gives me satisfaction. keeps me motivated. And also it brings me that sense of, okay, I belong here, I'm contributing. And how do I know that? It's because people are telling me, my manager's telling me, my colleagues are telling me, and that is how I'm going to get that sense of purpose. It can also mean having a passion for the job, and the overall mission and goals as well. Commitment to health and well-being, autonomy, we've talked a little bit about, professional development and growth. Again, employees want to learn and grow while they're on the job. And then the ongoing recognition, which we'll talk a little bit more briefly in a few moments. So one thing we can do in terms of creating that positive culture is also creating a coaching culture. So one thing employees have said during research on what they want in the workplace is they said they want leaders, and they also want coaches. They don't want just a boss who's telling them what to do, right? They want someone who can guide and mentor them. And really, what a coach is at work is helping make other people successful, right? We want people to do their best work. We want them to be successful in the jobs that they have. If you've ever been in a job where you weren't successful, where it wasn't playing to your strengths, and I've been there, I'm one of those people, it makes you miserable. It really does not make you motivated to keep trying. You know, you're doing something wrong, but when we are in that position where we have the skills, we have the tools, and we're getting the guidance from people to help us make us be successful, that gives us momentum, that gives us motivation and encouragement. So creating that coaching culture is really making everybody know that we want them to be successful, whether that's, really intensive training at the beginning when someone's onboarding, whether it's providing them support throughout their work career, whether it's finding new opportunities for them, helping identify and eliminate any roadblocks that might be occurring, also creating that environment where people openly share their knowledge and information. And I remember a day at previous employers where people would hold on to their information because they thought it was job security, right? I don't want to share this with anybody because I don't want them to know what I know because I don't want to lose my job. But I think that has evolved, hopefully, again, slow and steady in many companies. They recognize that knowing information and sharing that information and knowledge, not only within your own teams and departments, creates that trust, creates that foundation where you feel supported and you feel people have your back. So, doing that knowledge sharing can really be impactful. Um, Creating that culture of coaching really can help guide your team to their full potential, asking questions, asking people, what are some things that you're interested in doing here at the company, after 6 months? Is there anything that is, interesting to you or motivating you, or I think, you have this strength that maybe would be suited in this area. Having those conversations just about where people are at, meeting them where they are so that you can help prepare them for success at the next level. And when I said employees want a coach, not a boss, these are just some things to look out for. We know many times a boss can talk a lot, right? And that kind of can prevent you from getting those opportunities to really listen to employees and getting their input and feedback on how things are going. So I always say, pay attention in your meetings. Are you the only one talking if you're the leader? Or is your leader the only one talking? Or are they pausing to give opportunity for other people to give their opinions and ideas, ask for clarification? As coaches listen a lot, they're looking for that insight. They're looking for that knowledge, that information that can help them guide the person in the right direction. They also ask a lot of questions, right? They don't make assumptions or judgments. They ask questions to get clarification. They explore new areas with employees, again, seeking commitment, and really take responsibility with that employee. When things aren't working well, what can I do as a coach to help you get things back on track? And then making regular contact. And again, that could be individual based on the employee that you're working with. Some people might want some interaction every week or every day, especially newer employees. A seasoned employee might say, I'll let you know. Or maybe at least you could contact once a month. I know my boss asked me, and I said, I'll contact you, or you can just check in every other week. Is fine for now. And it's really worked out very well. So just, meeting people where they are can be very helpful. So if you're in that role of a coach, setting those clear expectations, as we said at the beginning, can really help impact motivation. So you need to be clear on what the expectations are. If it's a new position, if it's a new role, you really need to be as clear as you can. And there may be some change or shifting, but you want to set up the employee for success. And those expectations need to be communicated ongoing, right? Just in case there are misunderstandings, miscommunication, you really want to be clear what is expected right now. You're working on a new project, you're getting people involved. Find out who's going to be the lead, who's taking ownership of what. Because otherwise, sometimes we're running around and we're not knowing who's in charge, who do we report to, et cetera, et cetera. So being clear on what the expectations are can be a hugely impactful. Connecting the expectations back to the purpose and the outcomes for the organization, right? This is why we're doing this, because we're trying to achieve XYZ goal, right? Making sure we set those regular meetings so we can discuss how people are meeting up with the expectations. Making it mutual what the expectation is. You can write them down, gain agreement and commitment, and move on. But again, if you're not setting people up for success from the beginning, that they're clear on what their expectations are, that motivation can go down really fast. Then once you've set up the clear expectations, you're still coaching, right? You're still, if you've set up some goals and or someone's working on a new project or a new task, a new assignment, you still want to check in. You still want to observe as a manager, because that's your responsibility, and provide some feedback. And feedback is very impactful to employees. They want to know what they're doing right so they can keep doing it, and they want to know what they can do better. So feedback should always be specific. If someone tells me, great job on that webinar, Keisha, I'm like, thanks, but what about it was great? And I'm sure you're the same. It should be timely, right, in the moment, especially if it's constructive feedback for improving. Maybe it's a mistake that someone's made that really can't happen again. So we really want to be timely with providing that feedback. And then really when we give feedback, we want to focus on, is this going to help the employee learn, grow, and develop? If I'm giving this feedback, is it helping them be successful? Is it helping them make the leap, make the next step, learn from this, and so that they can progress? And then also keep in mind your own mindset when you're giving that feedback. If something's happened to you to put you in a bad mood that day, maybe it's not the right moment to give that feedback. And vice versa. If something happened with your employee, maybe they were, giving a webinar and it was not successful. So you want to ask them, is it a right time for me to give you some constructive feedback? Because, again, things can change at a moment's notice. So we want to be in the right mind frame because we all have egos. So again, if it's going to be constructive, if it's going to be something that we need to improve upon, we all need to be in the right mindset so that we can accept that feedback. And types of feedback, we're all familiar with negative and positive feedback. We usually see it in our performance evaluations about what we've done, what we can do better. But from a coaching mindset, we really are focused on the future. We really want to see, what can we learn from this moving forward? How can I guide you? What tools can I support you with? What resources can I provide so that we can learn from this? So if it's negative, feed forward, what are some things that we want to avoid not doing in the future? Or what do we need to put in place so that we don't do these in the future? And then positive feed forward, what can we do so that we know we'll keep doing, it'll be consistent, and we can streamline this because it's going very well. And then again, it's all individual. So just really think about the person who you're giving the feedback to. How are they going to respond to it? Are they going to be open to it? And again, we want to be tactful. These are just some ideas of how to think of how you're going to do it, your tone, your voice, being sincere, being specific, being positive, obviously. and being respectful, right? And timing can be everything. If it is a little bit more sensitive nature, you want to make sure you are in a private area. Even if you don't work in a private area, find a private area so that you can give that feedback without any other people listening in. So the major thing, and that's why we're covering it, the impact of feedback, according to this survey done by Gallup, 80% of employees who said they have received meaningful feedback, right? So we really thought about the feedback, the constructive way we were giving it, if it was really going to be supportive and people were going to learn and grow from it. If they received meaningful feedback in the past week, we're fully engaged, right? Because again, it knows we recognize when someone's giving us feedback that they're paying attention to us, right? That they know what we're doing, that we are contributing, that we do have a sense of purpose in our role and our position, and we're doing it well, or they're pointing out things that we can do better. And someone's looking out for us. They have our back. And then the third is creating that accountability. So many times you can have employees participate in goal setting. I know many companies, set some goals on their own and just kind of drive those down to the departments. But if you're able to, have employees participate in goal setting for the new year or for themselves individually, then they'll have more buy-in and commitment, and they'll hold themselves accountable. They'll really take ownership of that goal if it's something they're interested, whether it's in professional development. Anna and I were talking about a couple of things we want to work on in 2025, and we were very much aligned together, which was great. So we'll probably hold each other accountable, and check in with each other. Are you working on that? So that can really impact whether we own something and are accountable, is knowing that we were part of deciding what that goal is. And then again, making sure we align that goal with the big picture. How is this goal that I have going to impact our department, our organization, our company? It might sound like a great goal, but we still need it to contribute to the overall growth of the company. And then once we have established those goals, just like when we're setting those resolutions on January 1st, we want to keep the momentum going. So we want to encourage our employees with that goal, do the check-ins, let them know when they're doing a great job, even if it's a small thing that they've achieved or overcome, or if it required a big change in behavior. Let's acknowledge that. And then, of course, as we all know, our priorities in a company can change at a moment's notice as well. So remain flexible with your goals. And if you do have to adjust it, make sure you communicate that with your employees about the why. So holding accountability is a part of building that foundation of trust. And when you don't have that accountability with each other, then it becomes that blame game work environment, which is very toxic. So we want to have a culture of accountability, not a culture of blame. And really the major difference between these two, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but it's really, we're not blaming people when things go wrong. We're blaming the situation or the what happened versus the who. And that can become a domino effect. When one person starts blaming people on the team, then everybody gets on board. And it doesn't create a healthy, positive work culture, which is what we're striving to do. And so many of you said that you're striving to do that in your own workplaces. So we want to create that culture of accountability where people are open to saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. I need some extra help. Can anybody help me? Because there's going to be ebbs and flows to people's work cycles, where sometimes, during the week, we might have a lighter load. So we can offer to help and support other people. We do that in my own department. And there's no blame. There's no one saying, gosh, why doesn't that person have a lot going on this week? It's the opposite. It's, oh gosh, I have so much going on this week. Can you help me? And we really feel supported. And if someone is lighter, then they help make a consistency there. And it just brings that supportive environment to the team. And I just love it on our team. So next thing we're going to do as we get towards the end is talk about delegation. That is a huge motivator to teams, and not many managers utilize delegation. So we'll talk about delegating really strategically. which is a way that we can look for opportunities to grow our team skills. Like I said, asking employees what they're interested in, what they're enthusiastic about, observing and identifying what are their natural talents and strengths, and highlighting those, because sometimes our employees don't recognize their own talents and strengths, and we see the potential. And then when we do delegate something, making sure that we recognize when the employee is accomplishing it, achieving it, and doing an outstanding job with it. So I said most managers really don't delegate. And why is that? And here are some reasons. Um, Sometimes leaders lack their own motivation, right? I said we're at a huge high with stress and burnout, and that applies to managers too. Maybe they're lacking their own motivation, or they're not sure how they're going to delegate. They don't have the knowledge for something they want to delegate to someone. But more than likely, sometimes we get in that habit of, if we want it done right, it's easier and more time efficient to do it ourselves, right? So I've heard this, come right out of a manager's mouth, well, gosh, I want it done right. I got to do it myself. So it does require some time, does require some effort on our part, and really just assessing our own workload and saying, gosh, what can I give to someone else? What would be a good opportunity for delegation? How do I make this consistent, and not pile something on to someone who's really a high performer, and really spread it out so that everybody's doing something. Lack of trust. If you haven't built that team where there's a lot of trust involved, we might be hesitant to assign a new task, a new project, because again, we're going to be held accountable. We might have that fear of someone doing something incorrectly, and then we have to fix it. We're just not risk takers, so we don't want to assign it. Or we have the fear that someone's going to do it better than us, and maybe they'll take our jobs. But hopefully, if you're a great leader, manager, and coach, you want someone to do it better than you, right? Because you want them to succeed, and you want them to succeed and move on in their career. And then again, if someone does do it wrong, or things go awry, then maybe we get blamed as the manager or the project lead. So those are some reasons. So based in fear and hesitancy. But what happens when we don't delegate is we're not usually making the best use of our time, because we have so many things that we're juggling at once, right? We're trying to multitask, and we really don't get that time to really focus and strategize and concentrate, because we're doing so many things. But we won't really get the same results as if we effectively delegate, if we allow other people to collaborate, to take on some assignments, some projects, some tasks. We're really lightening the load for everybody and making it consistent. And truly, if you have seasoned employees, or employees who've been in a role for a certain amount of time, and are excelling at it, but maybe are less engaged, less motivated, they're looking for some new opportunities. So when we don't delegate, we're depriving people of those opportunities to learn and grow. Now, again, when we're thinking of delegating for these are tasks that we think people might enjoy, might be excel at, might be enthusiastic about. And there are certain tasks that we might have to delegate that people don't love. But hopefully those are temporary tasks. Those are filling in when we're understaffed. We know we all want to contribute. If you gave me a task to sit down in a cubicle all day and do Excel spreadsheets, I wouldn't be a happy camper. But if I knew it was contributing temporarily to the success of our team, or meeting a deadline, I would do it. I would do it. I would jump in. But if it was done in order to motivate me, that would not be a motivating factor. So no Excel spreadsheets for me on an ongoing basis. Also, we do increase the likelihood that people will become disengaged and leave when they aren't taking on newer responsibilities and learning and having new opportunities to do things that would be outside of their comfort zone, learning something new, training in a different department, leading meetings, facilitating, doing presentations. All of these things help us learn and grow. And if we create that coaching culture and we're a really collaborative leader, we're going to want to delegate to people. And the benefits really are numerous. It can maximize everyone's potential. If we highlight people's strengths, when people are doing things that they do well, they're usually happier and more motivated employees. It creates more space for new ideas. When we have a lightened load ourselves, we can make time to have meetings, to brainstorm, to strategize, to think of the future, and not always be catching up, right? Again, it improves job satisfaction when people are doing things they do well, that they're interested in, that they're enthusiastic about, and that they know that is contributing to your workload, that you are alleviating some of that heavy workload from someone else. It can create structure when we're delegating, we're assigning tasks to people, letting everybody know who is in charge of that task, who's in charge of that project, and who do we need to report to when we want to give updates. It also just provides a better environment for an organization to grow, to know that there are new opportunities and that we trust and believe in people. We believe in their skills and their potential. So think about people who delegate really well. What do? Well, they allow employees to participate in the delegation process. And I had a previous boss here at CEA who always did that when we had new projects, or we're pretty much an organization who says yes, and then we figure out how to do it. When we have situations like that, she would always ask us, if you're interested in this new task or this new direction that we're going, let me know. And if you're not, you're absolutely not interested in this, then don't. It's okay. Because I want people who are enthusiastic, who are motivated, who want to participate in this. And that was a great way to go about finding out what people were interested in and what they wanted to grow in. It also can instill confidence and belief when you see the potential in someone and say, gosh, I saw you, facilitating that meeting. I'd love for you to be a part of this project, et cetera, et cetera. Again, people, when they hear that, it shows them that they're cared about, that they're valued, they're seen, and they're heard. Good delegators are also very organized. They usually know what they can take off their plate and which they can find someone who they can delegate to. They also communicate really well what that task is going to be, how much check-in there's going to be. And then once they have trained, once they have set up the expectations, what we talked about, the accountability, the ongoing coaching, then great delegators let people get on with it. If that person does it slightly different than me, but they get a similar result or even a better result, then that's okay. They don't have to do it exactly by the book like I do. Again, unless it's a safety regulation or something, where we really need to be careful. But I will let them get on with it. If they're doing a great job, then that's going to be the satisfaction that I have. And then also just giving that effective feedback and that encouraging feedback. It may be something out of someone's comfort zone that they're trying for the first time, that they're hesitant about. So we want to give them encouragement along the way. Now, things we shouldn't delegate is, if you are in a position of leadership and you are hired to discipline others, then you don't want to give your disciplinary power away to someone who doesn't have that role. Also, whatever your core functions or responsibilities are that you were hired for, those are there for a reason. So you don't want to delegate those unless you are going to be out for a leave of absence or a long vacation. Someone can fill in temporarily, but you really want to remain true to what your core functions and responsibilities are on your job, or maybe have a discussion about those changing. Praise or discipline. As employees, we want to hear recognition from our managers when we need to do things better from our managers. So you don't want to delegate that out either. But having a collaborative environment where people are open to getting feedback and giving feedback, you can create that environment where people can give recognition to each other. But again, asking permission. Is it okay if I give you some feedback, but not the discipline? Also, in times of crisis, we want to know that our managers are there for us. So we want to see them present. Other people might handle crises better, but we want to see that our manager is chipping in. And if we're understaffed and I see a manager coming in and doing duties that aren't part of their position or role, it really shows me that they are invested, and that they know the job, that they're going to get in and get their hands dirty. And then team building, again, we want managers a part of that. If we have team building events or we're nurturing people's talent, employees want to see that their managers are showing up for them. And even if you don't want to organize a team building event, you can delegate that, but you want to show up there and you want to be excited and encourage others to participate in those team building events. So with all that we've talked about, a lot of it from the polling sounds like you're doing, but maybe were there any things that were outstanding that you're thinking maybe we need to work on those a little and kind of rethink our work culture as a result? It could be leadership styles, or just really giving new managers the opportunity for management training, pursuing leadership skills. Is it communication? How are we communicating with people? Are we being as honest and transparent as we can be to create that positive work culture and also to build that trust? Are we looking at work-life balance? How inclusive is our work environment? Are we inviting people to the right meetings? Are we asking for opinions and ideas? Have we done a climate study lately? Are we providing opportunities for growth? Are we letting people know what the opportunities are that are available and letting people volunteer? Do we have an employee recognition program in place? And are we finding ways that we can collaborate as teams, especially if you are in an organization maybe where you are hybrid or remote or a combination, so people don't see each other face to face a lot, because this helps build your culture, and culture really truly is what motivates and retains talented employees. If we are in an environment that helps us be successful and happy and engaged and motivated, then we're going to want to stick around. And part of that, bringing that inclusive culture, is also bringing more humanity into the workplace. And again, that can involve all of these things: recognition programs, personal and professional development, celebrating milestones, but just having that human connection with others. That will really help build that trust, and it can really build engagement and just a really more aligned team. And there is a company out there called Work Human, and their true philosophy is to make work more human. And they help employers with employee recognition programs with software, but they have identified the 3 pillars of making work more human. And number one is thanking people, recognizing them, similar to Gallup saying people want to be recognized at least once every 7 days for what they're doing. And when we thank people and when we show our appreciation and recognition, then it turns into action. Then other people want to help us in return, right? It's that reciprocity angle. Then there's talk. How do we communicate with each other? Are we communicating respectfully? Are we communicating enough? Are we sharing our mutual sense of meaning? What our goals are, what our purpose is, between the organization and the individuals who are contributing to the overall mission and goals. And then are we celebrating? Are we recognizing the successes that we make as a team, as a department, and also recognizing that life does intercept work, and people have celebrations outside of work? People get married, they buy homes, they get their master's degrees. We want to celebrate those as well, to again bring that humanity into the workplace, and have that human connection, because we are not robots yet, people. When we do make work more human, we take those moments to just sit and talk with each other, break bread together with each other. The benefits are endless. You have people that want to stay with you. There's better retention. You're able to recruit people because then you establish a reputation for your culture. People are more engaged, motivated, they perform at higher levels. You have opportunities to innovate and be creative with that collaborative leadership and creating that coaching culture. Obviously, you can see it when you encounter customer service. If your employees are happy, customers are going to be happy. And then you get the end results of profits and whatever goals and outcomes that you're looking to achieve. So I know that was an awful lot in less than an hour, but hopefully you had one takeaway that you're saying, yes, I can actually put that into action, right? Something, either a reminder, a refresher, or something new that you can take with you from this little lunch and learn. So it was my pleasure to have that with you today, and I will pass it back over to Anna to wrap this up for us.
I love this training so much. We had another training this morning, and I was like, ooh, 2 back-to-back great ones today for my rainy Wednesday. Love this. So as we mentioned, there is a survey. It's 5 questions, takes less than a minute to complete. I promise it's not scary, not painful. But if you can either scan the QR code on the screen, or once you close out of Zoom, a browser window will pop up. All you have to do is click opt-in and share your feedback with us. If you enjoyed it, if you'd like to see something different, we want to hear it all. So if you could take the minute to share that with us. Also, if you are joining us for continuing education credits, that is going to be on your screen as well as in the chat box right now. Excuse me, HRCI code 684656, SHRM code 24-4M4JZ. 4JZ. If you have any problems, sorry, any 90s hip hop fans in the house today. If you have any problems redeeming those codes, go ahead and shoot us an email, ceainfo@employers.org. Thanks, Barbara, for the and Keisha for the laugh. If you have any problems redeeming those, ceainfo@employers.org. You can also reach out to your appropriate HR hotline. One thing I am doing is grabbing the link for the next training sponsored by Central Valley that is coming up on December 18th. That is Skills for the Future. This is something that is going to be really focused on technology and how we can make sure that we are prepared to move forward and harnessing technology and leveraging it. So really encourage you to sign up for that one. Again, sponsored by the generosity of the Central Valley Collective Regional HR Hotline. So really encourage you to sign up for that. With all of that being said, we have 1 minute left. So if there's any other questions for Keisha, this is your time. Take advantage of this opportunity. But we do want to encourage you to think about a CEA membership, multiple different ways you can join us. But with that, I want, hotline available for business with physical location in Fresno, but doing business throughout the Valley. I believe so, right, Keisha? Rob has a question in the chat. Is the hotline available for businesses with a physical location in Fresno, but doing business throughout the Valley? I believe that would qualify you. If you do have any questions, go ahead and call the hotline anyway. You actually get to speak to multiple humans. You'll talk to Jen first, Jen, possibly Kelly, but you can ask them that question, Rob, or anyone on the call right now, and they will help direct you to the appropriate channel. But regardless, you're here with us today, so you will be able to utilize that HR hotline. So great question. Call us and we'll make sure that we get you over to the right place. But I do want to thank you, Keisha, for sharing your time and expertise. Thank you all for joining us live and spending your lunch hour. Please do take that survey. This is how we're able to make sure that we are meeting and hopefully exceeding your expectations with trainings like this. And with that, we hope to see you in December for the next training, and enjoy your day. Cheers.